Okay, so as we have discussed the specific structure of composing a speech, examiner requirement, and the specific tips issued by the examiner. So today we are basically going to go with the first prompt, the first practice for writing the speech, right? Okay, let me give you a very quick recap like what is the specific structure of the question. We would be given two text, text A and text B. Each text would be of 400 or 450 in word limit or might be longer than it, and both of the texts would be in the opposite stance. For example, if text A is saying that black color is good, so the text B will be expressing that black color is bad, right? Or there is a specific room that both of the text may talk about one specific thing, but in a different manner. And then we will receive the question like this. There are two specific points that we have to overcome. First, evaluate the views, attitudes, and opinion given in the both texts. Or second is give your own views based on what you have read about what a specific thing has been asked in the question. So before proceeding further, how we are going to evaluate, what we are going to evaluate, let me tell you the specific difference between the evaluation and analysis, right? The key word that we are going to use over here is basically evaluate. We have been asked to evaluate a text. We have not been asked to analyze a text. Most of the time, candidates do this sort of mistake because they have been habitual of studying English literature. So over there, they have been taught and they have been practicing to analyze a text. But here we are not at all supposed to analyze a text. Basically, the evaluation and analysis of the text are the two different things, but the related process in the literary and the critical studies. As far as analysis of a text is concerned, so when we are analyzing a text, so we are basically breaking down the text into its component to understand how it works. We examine their structure, we pay attention towards the language which is used, the theme the author has created, and the literary devices and the tone and the context in depth. And most of the time when we are analyzing the text, most of the time when we are analyzing the text, so our approach is basically objective and detailed, where we focus on what the text says and how it says it. For example, if we are analyzing that how symbolism is used in the Great Gatsby to reflect the American dream, or examining the tone and the diction in the poem to understand its emotional impact. In the other hand, if we talk about the evaluation of text, so when we are evaluating a text, so our main focus is basically to make a judgment about the effectiveness, impact, or value of the text. We basically assess the quality, effectiveness, relevance, and significance based on the critical perspective. And our approach is more subjective, involving personal interpretation and critique, right? For example, evaluating whether the Great Gatsby successfully critiques materialism in American society or not, or assessing whether a poem effectively conveys its intended message to the audience or not. So, in simple word, we can say that the key difference in both of the term evaluation and analysis is analysis is breaking down the text into its original components to understand how it works, and evaluation is a judgment how effective or the meaningful the text is, or getting the main ideas, right? So here the specific criteria that has been given to us is the evaluation of the text. We have to evaluate the text where we would be paying attention on the views, we would be paying attention on the attitudes and the specific opinion presented in the text, right? Okay. So let's read the question first. Question says that write a speech for young people why music matters. In your speech, you should evaluate the views, attitudes, and opinions given in both texts. Give your views based on what you have read about the best ways to inspire young people to become involved in music. Base your speech on what you have read in both of the text, but be careful to use your own words. Address both of the bullet points, write about 250 to 350 words. Up to 15 marks are available for the content of your answer and 10 marks for the quality of your writing, right? Sorry, it's written 25 here. It's not 25, it's 10. So this is basically a typical directed writing question. Seems like we have been given the question in this stance, which has two specific criteria that we have to fulfill. Each question, whatever the genre has been given, regardless the matter of our choice, we like the genre or not, we have to fulfill, right? We do not receive any choice in directed writing question, right? It's a compulsory question. The only specific construction which remains same are the two specific point where the examiner is asking us to evaluate the views, attitudes, and opinions presented in the text, and second is to give our own view. Here, the next of this pair of instruction which has been given is that we have to base by using our own word, right? What you have read in both texts, but be careful to use your own words. This means that if you are just simply rephrasing text A or text B, so you are not fulfilling the specific requirement of the directed writing. Maybe your response is going to be cancelled, right? Then the division of the marks usually going to remain same, regardless the genre we are working to. So here we are basically working with a speech. So let's read the text. Text A, my musical history. My mother talented pianist. She loves to play, sorry, pianist. My mother's a talented pianist. She loves to play classical music. One of my earliest memories involved sitting by her piano while she played. It gives her joy and personal pride. I think she wanted the same for me when I was just 6 years old. Enrolled me into the piano lessons. I hated them. I was nervous and hated the songs I was being forced to learn. I was a kid and wanted to do other things instead. Learning to read music and play scales did not interest me. No amount of begging from my mother could get me to enjoy practicing. One day, when you are older, she would plead, you will cherish the ability to sit down and play. Nevertheless, after a couple of expensive years of once a week misery, she finally allowed me to quit. At 11 years old, I switched schools, got a new best friend, Kim, and got interested in music. This was a critical turning point. Kim loved the band, sorry, Kim loved the band Weave. Listening to them unlocked a whole new sonic world for me. I fell in love completely and totally with rock music. Kim taught me to play a power chord on her acoustic guitar. If you know that, you can play, or at least convincingly fake, pretty much every rock song in the world. I was hooked. This was music, my kind of music. I spent hours practicing, more hours playing along with the favorite songs in front of the mirror, pretending I was famous. I would unlock a talent within me that I had sadly gone untapped when I was younger and battling that piano. I discovered that I did not need to read music. I could play my guitar by ear. Today, I work as a music therapist, helping clients use music to work through their issues, face challenging situations, and improve their overall quality of life. My own kids are growing up surrounded by just about every instrument imaginable. They are encouraged to explore them, bang around, pretend, and feel good. Maybe they will be interested in learning how to play one, or maybe they won't. Either is absolutely fine by me. Okay, now let's see what the text B says. The text B says that following passage is a talk to parents given by a head teacher. Music is invaluable to our children in many ways. Not just obvious benefits for brain development, but it will change your child's life now and for the future. Music teaches perseverance. and the value of the hard work, demanding that we focus on details, paying attention to the sound of even a single note until we get it exactly right. Music requires position. Music shows us that we can practice and prepare, but when performing in a concert as in life, we must keep going we must keep going no matter what mistakes happen. Music teaches children to manage failure. That failure can be small in a practice room or it can be really big on the stage in front of an audience of their peers and parents. What better education for your young future entrepreneurs? Whether a building scientist or a professional hockey player, your child will have a more enriched and creative life if they have experience of performing music in their youth. Music will make your child's life happier, bringing depth and awareness. It will teach them to create connections and to innovate and unique thinkers. Modern children spend too much time alone on the internet. They no longer interact face to face or creatively invent things to do with their spare time. Our school's new music program will provide that missing interaction alongside twice weekly instrument lesson on a designated instrument. Every one of our children will join one of our new school orchestras. We may all aim to enrich our family lives with travel, museums, and not glaciers, galleries. But for anyone who wishes their children to experience sensation that are beyond the realm of their everyday existence, music is a journey into a world that cannot be found anywhere else. Our school's music program will start that journey. Our children will learn the fundamentals of the classical music, its history, and its practice through the series of inspiring talks from the celebrated orchestral conductor and former student of our school, Simon Shea. They will be exposed to and learn to love our rich musical heritage through their weekly public performances of opera and music from ballet, demonstrating their newly acquiring skills to a wider audience. They may even take part in tours further afield to publicize our wonderful school. This experience will remain a part of the fabric of their lives and the color their experience of the music forever after. So far, we have read both of the text. Text A it seems like a narrative text written by someone or maybe a diary entry, which do not give us ample of the specific ideas to conclude. But text B is in the more formal tone, as it has been spoken by our head teacher to the parents when the parent has been introducing the specific time of specific program of music. So let's see how we are going to evaluate the text. So, as far as this particular process of evaluation is concerned, so evaluation stands for taking out the main idea, right? But before proceeding to the evaluation, let's pay a very close attention to the question because question is the only specific thing which tell us ke what specific piece of writing are we going to compose. Are we going to compose a persuasive piece of response or a narrative piece of response? How to understand this particular stance in the question. Question is that write a speech for the young people why music matters. That means that in your speech you are just going to talk about how music plays an important role in your life. So that means that it is a persuasive speech, right? So that means that you are going to talk about all the specific major aspect of the importance of the music. Your response will not have any sort of counter argument. As far as the structure of both of the texts is concerned, so this thing you can understand clearly that both of the texts are in the same stance, right? In text A, the author initially did not like to learn music, but later on, gradually, when he moved towards the college and makes friends, so he develop the specific interest to learn music. Whereas in text B, all the specific good ideas are there, specific features of the text, which basically are quite very enriched to emphasize that why learning music is important, right? So let's start from text A. So here, the first and the foremost thing that we can understand is that the parents and the schools need to consider children's individual needs and their preference to inspire them to learn, right? Now, this thing is not clearly written in the text. The text basically says that playing an instrument can bring joy, right? Let me just highlight it. I gave her joy. I think she was. Yes. It gave her joy and personal pride. This is the specific line which is telling us that playing an instrument can be a source of bringing a joy. So let me write it down here somewhere. So from text A, the highlighted phrase, we can understand that yes, playing an instrument can bring joy. Second specific idea, which is also prominent here, is that learning to play well can give you a sense of personal achievement and pride. And this thing is quite very evident here when the mother replied to the child that one day when you are older, she would play it, you will cherish the ability to sit down and play. So, this is basically telling you that if you have learned any specific extracurricular skill, so it will give you a sense of achievement, right? So we can say that it provides a sense of personal achievement. It gives you a sense of personal achievement. Then moving further, overall from text A, we have come to know that when the mother insisted and the child was entered in the music school, so the child was at the younger stage, right? And he did not show any sort of interest, but later on when he was 11-year old and he switched his school and he made a new friend, so his interest was developed. So this means that some people can start learning instruments when they are very young, right? Or with a specific pace of their life. Some people can start learning instruments when they are young. Okay, next thing from the same specific text, we have understood that the child did not show or expressed any sort of interest and he quit. Initially, the mother did not allow the child to quit learning the music, but later on, when she saw and observed that there is no specific use to push the child, and the better option is to let the child to do whatever he or she want. So that means that few children may like to learn the instrument, or few may not like. Right? So we can say that few may like to learn how to play musical instrument, or few may not, right? Okay, next theme from this text which is evident is that the author was admitted in the specific classes to learn how to play the musical instruments, and it was basically why. So the reason is that the author's mother was a very talented person who has a command to play piano. So that means the specific field where the parents usually master. So they think or they consider that this field can be good for their children. The common irony of our society, right? If a father is a doctor, so father wants the son to become the doctor. If the mother is a chef, so mother may like the son or the daughter to become a chef because they have been used to, they have been habitual of this one without knowing the specific interest of the child. So we can say that the next evaluated point is or can be that parents want their children to be able to play an instrument, right? So far, we have evaluated 5 points from text A, but there are much more which can be used as an evaluation, right? Uh, for example, if we just pay very quite focus at the last two paragraphs, so here we can get an understanding that this time the author was willing to learn, so that's why the author has learned all the things by himself. So that means it's not necessary that you need to have an instructor. You can teach yourself to play an instrument or to learn from the friends, right? And as the mother was a very talented person who has a command to play the piano, so that means obviously she might have been using it as a source of earning. So the next evaluated point can also be that the few people uh, depend to make their living from the music, right? So far I have just taken out these 5 points from text A, right? Now let's see what is there from text B. So in text B, the things that has been told to us is that it is the specific sort of comparing, or it is a specific sort of framework of the instructions given by the head teacher to the parents in order to initiate the program. So the first thing is that overall importance of this is that learning to play an instrument teaches invaluable lessons of the life, right? Music teaches perseverance and the value of the hard work, right? So the first thing, it's written over here clearly that music teaches perseverance and the values of the hard work. So by keeping this thing in consideration, we can say that learning to play an instrument teaches the value of hard work, or you can also say that emphasize the values, or it helps to learn the different sort of moral values, right? Then moving further, the next point is that paying attention to the sound of the even a single note until we get it exactly right. Music requires precision. Music shows us that we can practice and prepare. So here basically is the idea is further developed, like that playing music or learn to play different instrument of the music helps you to understand the different values in your life, right? So let's proceed to the next paragraph. Whether a budding scientist or a professional hockey player, your child will have a more enriched or the creative life if they have experience of performing music in their youth. So that means it is saying that it helps you to make connection, right? For example, you have learned to play a piano, then you made your video and you uploaded it on your TikTok or on your YouTube channel. So all the viewers who has watched the videos are now going to be the fan of you, right? So they know you. Ultimately, whenever they see you at any specific public place, they want to or they will try to connect to you, right? They will try to socialize with you. So learning music helps you to socialize, right? Overall, more children spend too much time alone in the interest. There are no longer interact face to face or creatively invent things to do with their spare time. So that means ke it is a source of children individual needs, right? Few may like to play a piano, few may like to play a violin, few may like to play a flute. So whatever the specific interest a child or a kid may have, so technically they can get a specific guideline to how to learn how to use that specific instrument, right? Then the ending does not have any specific points of consideration. Yes. So this is basically what the evaluation says. Like we from reading the text, we have taken out the specific ideas. Now the thing is ke, as I have mentioned earlier at the beginning of my lecture, that you are supposed to evaluate, and when it comes towards the writing, so that means ke you are not at all going to lift the text. In simple words, if I just conclude all the specific instruction is ke you can use the specific creativity of your own to come up with the possible outcomes or the possible synthesis of all of these ideas, all the specific ideas which has been displayed on the screen in front of you right at the moment. What is it telling you? It is telling you that this is the specific platform which can cater the specific needs of an individual. It also tells you that there are other equally enriching areas of the study. It's not only like that the school is only aimed to teach you from the books and the notebooks. There are some certain areas where you can learn new things, which is most commonly known as co-curricular activities, right? Or you can one thing that has been mentioned over here in text B is that the person who would be leading this whole entire program is the person who has already studied from this school, the orchestral means the particular leader. If you might have seen a specific videos of orchestra, so usually orchestra is a specific group of the musicians where different people are playing different specific sort of instrument, and you might have noticed one specific person holding a stick in the hand and giving specific direction. So that person is basically the leader of that orchestra or the orchestral. So it is basically giving you an understanding that if any one of you opt for learning the music, or if any school initiate for this platform the students to learn, so it is not only the benefit for the student, but it is also the benefit for the school will get the publicity, and the student will get another skills to learn, right? Okay, so this is how the evaluation is supposed to be done. So the first phase we have done by evaluation. Now the thing is, now we have to pass out the remaining elephant of our conversation, which is to write down the speech. So first, I would like to share few specific tips that you can apply to make your speech more effective. First and the foremost, you have to fulfill the specific guideline given by the examiner, and that the first one is that know your audience, which means that you always have to consider that who your audience is. So, for example, if you are giving a speech to the young people, right? So it is basically going to influence your tone, language, and examples. For example, if you are giving a speech to the students about the importance of studying other subjects like the music, right? So you might say that I know that school can feel tough sometimes, but I think about how these small efforts now can open up the doors for your future. So this specific use of the phrase connects the audience age and the experience. However, if you're speaking to a parent at a parent teacher meeting, or you're addressing to any other designated person on the same topic, So you might use a bit of more formal language. So if I just convert my sentence into the formal language, so it can be like that: the choices our children make today will have a profound impact on their future of their academic success. Right? So this is how you can fulfill the first specific requirement given by your examiner, which is to know your audience. Second is that to use simple and the clear language. We have to avoid using the complicated words or the phrases. Some people listen to the speeches, they do not read them. So clarity is a very as an important key. So instead of saying in your speech, instead of saying that the initiative aims to ameliorate educational standards, which is a quite complex structure of the sentence, you can simply say that this program might helps you to improve the quality of education. So in simple words, you can make it easier for your audience to understand your message. Because if you are using too much advanced vocabulary, so it is obvious that everybody is not going to be able to understand it. Only the person who have a good command on language, they can understand it, right? The third specific tip, according to the specific instruction of our examiner, is to address the potential objections. Right? You have to consider that your audience might disagree with you, or they might be skeptical about whatever you have said. So you have to address it in your speech. For example, uh, despite this topic, if you are giving a speech about why everyone should start recycling, and you know that some people might think that it is too inconvenient, so you can say that I understand that some might think recycling takes too much time, but just a few simple changes that can make a big difference in our environment, which shows that you are aware of their concerns and offering a solution, right? Fourth one is that you have to use an inclusive language, like the specific connective words like we, us, or are, in order to make your audience feel like they are the part of the message and that you are at their side altogether, right? For example, instead of saying that the government needs you to solve this issue, you can say that we as a community can come together to solve this issue, which builds unity and encourage your audience to work on some collective actions, right? Next tip, as per the specific guideline of our examiner, is to engage your audience emotionally, which means that you are going to appeal to the emotions of your audience to make your speech more persuasive. For example, if we consider another example, and for example, you are giving a speech on homelessness, right? So you can say that imagine, yeah, if one of your loved one was living on the streets without food or shelter, wouldn't you want to do something to help? Question mark. This is basically here I have used a specific phenomenon of the rhetorical question. So this makes the issue personal and encourages the audience to feel empathy, right? So these are the few specific tips that we are going to follow in our writing. One most important part that I would also like to discuss before proceeding towards writing the speech is the one specific literary art. It is. This is basically called the rule of three, right? We can use the rule of three in our writing, not only in our directed writing, we can even use it in our uh, narrative. But it is more recommended when we are working with a persuasive or argumentative piece of writing. So let's discuss what is the rule of three. So the rule of three is basically a sort of writing and speaking technique where ideas, concepts, or the elements are presented in groups of three. This rule is based on the idea that the things that come in threes are inherently more satisfying, memorable, and effective than the other numbers. And it is often used in speeches, storytelling, and writing to create rhythm, balance, and impact. Now the thing is, why does the rule of three work, or how does this rule of three can work? So it can work to maintain three specific elements in your writing. First, simplicity. Second, balance, and third, rhythm. Let's talk about them one by one. If we talk about the simplicity, so 3 points are simple and easy to remember. And if we talk about balance, so 3 is a small enough number to be memorable, yet large enough to create a sense of completeness. Lastly, if we talk about the rhythm, so using 3 items create a rhythm that makes the message more engaging and it gives a sense of structure. And if we consider a specific example of this rule of three in the speeches, so if you are expressing any sort of action that can be needed on very quick note, so you can see that we came, we saw, we conquered, right? So this is basically a famous quote uh, used by Julius Caesar in one of its novel as well, right? Now, the last thing is how to use this rule of three in your speech. So, first and foremost, it is used to group the ideas. So, when you are making a list or discuss the key points, you can organize them into the 3 categories for clarity and impact. For example, to achieve our goals, we need determination, focus, and perseverance. Right? So, in this way, you can keep your speech more engaging by applying this specific rule of three. Now, keeping this specific guideline in our mind, let's proceed towards how we are going to proceed to compose the speech for this specific text. So, the ideas I have evaluated, and I have given you the specific guideline which can help you in future how to evaluate effectively. As far as the structure is concerned, so we already know that the first paragraph is going to be your introduction, where you are going to talk about what is music, right? Where you can say uh, what is music, why is it important, or why it is important, right? And then you have to add your purpose. Why are you presenting this speech? Why are you presenting this speech? So the only purpose for presenting this speech is basically to get the mark. Regardless of matter, we don't want to present the speech, but yes, we have to. But coming it towards the main specific guideline, and on a formal way how we are going to compose our particular purpose here. So first and foremost, we can start by saying that what is music, why it is important, and how it can help, right? And the specific purpose of giving the speech is to promote the idea that why music matters. Acha, as far as the expression of the purpose is concerned, so try to avoid your purpose actively. Do not write the purpose like this, I am writing this speech, or the purpose of giving this speech is to highlight the specific importance of why music importance. Say in a positive way, right? Sorry, say in a passive tone. Do not give your purpose very clearly. Then, as far as you are going to come with the main body, so that means case so far the evaluated points I have taken out are 8, right? So if you want, so you can make 8 paragraphs, or if you want to concise them, so you can concise them in 5 paragraphs. As far as the examiner requirements are concerned, so examiner at least want 3 well-developed points, or maximum are totally up to us, right? So main body paragraph mein, we are going to have our second para, where we will talk about the first point, right? And the point for this para would be that playing an instrument can bring joy. Now, obviously, for this point, I am going to give the evidence, right? And the best evidence that you can give is that it relieves stress. Usually, whenever we have been scolded by our parents, or whenever we have been given a very emotional lecture by any elder person, so what we usually do, we just put our AirPods or earbuds in our ear and we start listening to the sad music, right? Or whenever we are feeling very chill, so we move towards the rocking music, right? So it is basically relieving stress. Then the same specific example, if you want to quote, so you can quote it down. As you're trying to make it more formal, so try to use the formal language, right? The overall tone is basically going to be the semi-formal, so but you have to use a semi-formal language to compose it. Then you are going to come up with a third para, and this time your point is going to be learning to play instrument teaches the value of hard work. It helps you to make connection, or the children needs individual or sense of personal achievement. Or let's make this one sense of personal achievement. So the point is going to be that it gives you a sense of personal achievement, right? What is going to be the evidence of it, right? For evidence, you can say that it's not necessary that you are learning it with the presence of an instructor, or you are learning it individually. So if you are learning it individually, so that means that you are putting all of your efforts. So that means that when you finally learn to play the instrument all by your own, so it gives you some sort of sense of achievement, that you feel like that you have achieved something, that your target has been achieved, right? Same is specifically, you are going to quote one specific example, right? Then you are going to come up with fourth para, right? And in the fourth para, you are going to talk about, okay, let's see which point is good to pick. Some people can start learning instruments when they are young. This is basically a very general point, so let's avoid it. Parents want their children to be able to play an instrument. It helps you to make connection. So yeah, for this one, we are going to talk about that it helps you to make connection, right? It helps you to make connection. And as far as evidence is concerned, so you have to come up with one specific evidence and then relevant example. As it is a persuasive speech, right? So that means that you are not going to cater the need of the counterpoint. So that means the next paragraph that you are going to proceed once you are done with your body paragraphs, either you want to use 3 points or the 5 points. I have given you the specific guideline how to use the 3 points. So then you can directly proceed towards the ending. And in the ending, you have to make sure that each and every part, sorry, not each and every part, that your reader is basically getting a clear guideline for your reader what to do after reading your specific speech, right? So here the specific guideline that you can give to the reader is to learn or emphasize to learn how to play different sort of instrument, not all sort of instrument, but only at least one sort of. So this is how our speech writing is going to be done. So this is basically the prompt one. I have given you the specific guideline how to evaluate We discussed about the specific structure and the focus of the questions. Then we discussed few specific tips to make our speech more effective by aligning the specific ideas of the examiner. And then here is the plan. And this is how your specific plan must look like when you are solving your paper, when you are solving your final paper, right? Remember, just adding the specific one, sort of these sort of terminology, that first para introduction, second para main body, third para ending, it does not give a sense of planning, right? And the purpose of planning is basically to give a good impression of you to the examiner that you are well prepared, right? So, next we can proceed towards writing down the speech by following the same specific structure.